another Damon and Steven Soderbergh movie. Hope this sounds interesting. Hello YouTube, Film Buff 06 here, coming your way with a review of The Informant, which was released in 2009. It was loosely based on the 2000 non-fiction novel of the same name that was written by a former New York Times journalist named Kurt Eichenwald, who is also a producer on the film. It was written by Scott Z. Burns, who had previously written screenplays for The Bourne Ultimatum, Contagion, Side Effects, and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It was executive produced by George Clooney. It was directed by Steven Soderbergh, who gave us such a diverse range of movies as Out of Sight, Traffic, Sex, Lies and Videotape, Erin Brockovich, Magic Mike, and the Danny Ocean movie trilogy, which of course consists of Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, and Ocean's 13. And it stars Matt Damon, who was actually nominated for a Golden Globe for his performance in the film, which also marked his fifth overall collaboration with Soderbergh. Comedians Scott Bakula, Joel McHale, and Tony Hale, Melanie Lynskey, otherwise known for her role alongside Kate Winslet in Heavenly Creatures, Thomas F. Wilson, aka Biff Tannen from the Back to the Future trilogy, Patton Oswalt, who voiced Remy the Rat in Ratatouille, Candy Clark from American Graffiti, Clancy Brown, otherwise known to kids as the voice of Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob SquarePants, and also to adult moviegoers for his role as Hadley, the abusive prison guard in The Shawshank Redemption, and Frank Welker, who is much better known as a veteran voice actor. Now, Steven Soderbergh announced his intention to adapt. Now, long story short, Steven Soderbergh announced his intention to adapt the book in 2002, shortly after completing Ocean's 11. Now, The Informant is told from the first-person point of view of this guy named Mark Whitaker, played by Matt Damon, who also becomes the unreliable narrator of the film, and is based on the true-life story of his involvement with the FBI as one of its highest-ranking corporate whistleblowers in US history in an investigation against Whitaker's own company ADM that specialises in developing lysine, which is a special food additive made out of corn for illegal price fixing during the 1990s by tape recording a series of international business meetings that the company were holding with its international competitors around the globe, James Bond or Erin Brockovich style, as evidence to help the US government build their case. However, in the end, this gradually and dramatically turned into a disastrously hilarious situation for the FBI as they found it increasingly hard to trust their informant due to his compulsive lying and his incredibly bizarre and eccentric behaviour. So, what are my thoughts on The Informant? Well, coming from someone who was not really familiar with this case until before I watched this movie, a couple of nights ago now, in hindsight, this is one of those films that is really hard to categorize upon first viewing because whilst there are some things that I like about it, I cannot deny that there are also some problems that I have with the movie. While it's not really the worst Soderbergh film I've ever seen, it isn't anything all that exceptional either. I mean, I would say that this was one of the weakest and strangest films the guy has made in his career so far. Which is weird because unlike Martin Scorsese with his gritty realism, Steven Spielberg with his sentimentality and popcorn entertainment, aesthetic, Quentin Tarantino with his, razor-sharp, witty dialogue, Michael Bay with his constant explosions and pornographic shots of attractive-looking young women, M. Night Shyamalan with his twist endings, David Lynch and David Cronenberg with their weird, otherworldly surrealism, Peter Jackson and Guillermo del Toro with their, dark and fantastical world building, and even Christopher Nolan with his, grand ideas and more cerebral approach, to filmmaking. Steven Soderbergh is just one of these filmmakers that never really adheres to a particular, trademark style of filmmaking. He is like an experimental chameleon sort of filmmaker who has a unique ability to alternate between making mainstream films like the Ocean's trilogy and these more indie art house movies like Sex, Lies and Videotape and Traffic. Now the things that I did like about the movie are the intriguing premise, the sharply written script by Scott Z. Burns, the score by Marvin Hamlish, which I thought was very nice. Actually, without being, too overbearing, out of place or intrusive, and it was quite clearly intended to homage some of the old American TV shows of the 70s, and especially some of the classic James Bond films, which is ironic since Hamlish helped to score The Spy Who Loved Me, and he also won an Oscar for his score to The Sting. Also, great direction from Steven Soderbergh, and great acting performances. The supporting cast, including Melanie Lynskey, Scott Bakula, and Joel McHale, all do a pretty great job with their roles. But of course the standout is Matt Damon, who is fantastic as Mark Whittaker, and manages to give one of the greatest performances of his career that, quite honestly, in my opinion, should have gotten him an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. I mean, he did such a brilliant piece of method acting here. He gained 30 pounds, grew a Ned Flanders-style moustache. He completely transformed himself into his character. He proved that he has real acting chops than most people give him credit for, and he succeeded in completely distancing himself from his more bankable Hollywood action star persona, which he obviously gained from the Jason Bourne films. Damon's characterization of Mark Whittaker also reminded me of his role in The Talented Mr. Ripley, mixed with Christian Bale's Patrick Bateman in American Psycho, mixed with Hayden Christensen's character in Shattered Glass, and he ended up creating a character that is very likable and hilarious to watch, but at the same time, in the end, you couldn't really 100% trust everything that comes out of his mouth. For example, when he codenames himself as Agent 0014, and when asked why, he claims that he is twice as smart as 007, James Bond himself, which we all know he clearly is not, and he doesn't have a single clue in his head about what he is doing. All in all, it was just a brilliant performance from Matt Damon. Well done to him. However, here are some of the problems that I have with the movie. The way the cinematography is used in this film gives it this kind of televisual feel, almost like a TV movie, and also makes the film look like it was shot in the 70s, even though the true life events of this story took place in the 90s, which is pretty strange if you think about it. I mean, yeah, very strange. Apart from Whittaker and perhaps his wife, most of the other characters were not really that likable, either due to the amount of screen time that they had. It was either due to the amount of screen time that they had, or that they weren't as fully developed as they should have been. The humour was almost lacking at times, and it didn't quite hit the mark as it otherwise should have done. Whilst being absurdly hilarious to hear at times, at other times though, the internal monologue in which, Mark constantly talks and rambles to himself, which was executed better with the Edward Norton character in Fight Club, has this annoying habit of, jumping around more times than a grasshopper, but then again, at least it gives the audience an idea of what is really going on inside his head. The movie went at a really confusing pace. Not really to the point where I got bored by the movie per se, but it just rambled on, dragged at times, and felt a little bit too long for a film that lasts under 2 hours. And the tone of the movie is also very confusing and a bit messy at times. It's as if the movie doesn't really know what it wants to be, whether it wants to be a comedy or a thriller or a drama or just a simply, quirky and amusing black comedy in the style of either a Woody Allen film or even a Coen Brothers film. it's like Michael Bay when he made Pain and Gain a couple of years ago, where he took a true story and turned it into a comedy, which as we all know, failed miserably. With this film, I could at least see what Soderbergh was trying to do with this movie. He clearly wanted it to be a homage to some of the classic Blake Edwards films, like the Pink Panther series with Peter Sellers, whilst at the same time putting his own sort of quirky take on it. But ultimately in the end, it wasn't quite up to snuff, and it doesn't quite work, unfortunately, which is a bit of a disappointing shame, because I think this story had so much potential going for it. I would only highly recommend this movie for Matt Damon's performance, and also if you're a fan of Steven Soderbergh's work in general, or even if you are interested, and whether or not, and if you are interested in this story or not. But other than that, you're just going to be sorely disappointed. Yes, guys. So, in conclusion, my overall rating for The Informant, it's going to be a 5 out of 10. Now, feel free to leave a comment in the section below and let me know your thoughts on The Informant. Plus, feel free to subscribe to my channel. And until my next video, which is going to be a review of Hollywoodland with Adrian Brody and Ben Affleck, do take care, everyone, and goodbye.